Mic check 1 2. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me, chat? Can you hear me? We are live. Music should be at good levels. We've returned. Checking the mic. Mic check. Ooh boy. That ISC though. Let's get to the office and talk a little bit about this. Welcome one and all. Welcome to the office hours. My name is Paul. Berserker 01, Batman Shelley. Your space bartender at the Astropub. Your host on Captain's Table and your professor on Galactic Historian. Welcome. The office hours is a stream where I bring people from all over. No, that's Captain's Table. We just hang out and talk Star Citizen. We talk Star Citizen lore. We talk Star Citizen developments. It's more of kind of a chill out, talk and hang out thing. So, and I know some people like to watch this and are like, I watch you for lore, not everything else. It's like, well, then watch my lore videos. You don't have to watch this. I do some video lore stuff here, but I'm going to be a little bit more personal because it's a live show. So if you're watching this later, thank you for watching, but live show. We're going to have some issues. We're going to be some technical stuff. We'll work them out as we go through, but that's how it goes. Mistur, the first tasty target drone, BSNT combustible props, Tumble Tank, Tumble Nova, you absolute madman, gifting us 10 subs, gift subs. You're nuts. Thank you. Absolute nuts. Comment for the comment, God. Thank you, Scott. Good though. They are. They're great. It's like study hall for Star Citizen University. It's more like I like to think it more as like advisory for Star Citizen University. A little bit of development, a little bit of background lore, asking questions and such. Le office. You betrayed the lore. I am the lore. Cyberman Smith. Alan. You betrayed the lore. Sadly, I've not had enough time to do my traditional, like, hey, check out my latest painting stuff I've done for Warhammer 40k, because I haven't had time to. I have been in the process of redoing the room, doing a bunch of stuff for the room so that my office is a little bit better. I even have moved my gaming PC because I had to replace the power supply. I tested it out on Tuesday, I want to say, maybe Wednesday when it came in, and I booted up Star Citizen, had it run for a while, and didn't crash. So it seems like it's better. So hopefully we won't have that issue we had on Monday where the power supply died. But it did let me know that I'm gonna probably have to start saving some money and maybe doing some goal streams to buy a new PC. It won't be too bad because I've already got the graphics card. I'm not gonna buy a new graphics card, but you know, that still leaves about $1,000, which is still expensive. Though it should last me about 5 years. So yeah, I bought one PSU, and then I already have the graphics card, which I bought last year, so it's really not that bad. So just a new case, new fans, and I definitely need to start moving over my old drives to new drives. A long time ago. 980 GT was a long time ago. Pablostro. You were supposed to become the lore, not to talk about the lore, not become it. My keying looks great. Did I add some light to it? No. So here's the thing about keying. All I've done is turn off the uplight, and I've fiddled with it a little bit, but the above light. but it's fine now. Like it used to be kind of weird. I didn't really mess with it too much, and then boom, it's done. It fits. It's fine. It does like no problems. But I still have problems with zoom, and you'll notice here is a bit of an issue here. So thank you. All right, let's get started. So, a couple things to talk about. First off, the lore team came back and did their first, I don't think, it might have been their first new content, because the last one they did before this, the week before this, was finishing up their story, this current story series they're on. So, the latest content, which I've done I've recorded the audio for it, so I'm just going to probably edit it and release it tomorrow, is a report on, I'm doing a report on Addison. So for those of you who don't know, we have a new Imperator in the UEE. Her name is Leilani Addison. She is an independent. Y'all voted for her. She got 45% of the vote. Okay? Out of 5 candidates, she got nearly 50% of the vote. Sorry, listen to this. So, anyways, she got almost 50% of the vote, so she won. And she was inaugurated on the 1st of January. And she was she's been 2951, and she has been the Imperator for 3 weeks now, almost a month. And election controversies. Yeah, so what was her big goal? Her big goal was AI. She wants to restart AI research, which has been there's been a moratorium on it on and off for 900 years. Every time humanity builds AI, it goes crazy and tries to kill people. So the lore of Star Citizen is very similar to the lore of Warhammer 40k in that AI is always bad. So she also was education and science, and I'm going to go more in depth on this in terms of like in terms of like what's the successes and the failures in the report. But I will say the basic gist of it is she is not doing great as an Imperator. She kind of bumbled a lot during the first week. Some issues with her inauguration ball. There were issues. Her first speech before the Senate barely got any applause, which shows kind of how cold the Senate is to her. Which is bad because this is not the Mezzer era. You need the Senate to get stuff done. So, and then one of her cabinet members was not vetted enough because there was unearthed that she had kind of brutally shit-talked the entirety of the leadership of the military, the UEE high generals, or it's not the high general, it's the high command, the UEE high command. She kind of dunked on them, and in the Star Citizen universe, in the UEE, the Imperator's at the top. Then you have the Senate, who's in charge of the internal matters and finance and laws. And then enforcement and interpretation of the laws goes through the advocacy, which is kind of like the police and the judges and like the court system mixed together. And then the military has its own branch, which is dedicated for defense, which is headed by the High Command, which is kind of like the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So having someone who's on the cabinet of the Imperator who kind of shit-talked the leaders of the military did not go over very well. So they had to withdraw her candidacy, which they have lots and lots of positions currently open. The Addison Imperatorship has a lot of positions open in the cabinet, and just for bureaucracy's sake, there's just a lot of missing pieces. Phantom, last time I checked, you weren't the head of navigation and transportation for the entire UEE. So, on the good news for AI research, she's managed to basically bypass a committee to try to get some revisions on AI research amended. So that's good for those of you who want us to all die from Skynet. And another very interesting moves. There is later this year, there's going to be in New York a xenoscience convention, a xenoscience committee meeting where scientists from Banu, Tevarin, Xi'an, and human scientists will meet and exchange ideas. Kind of a interstellar science accords. I'm doing good. Thank you, RK. That's not going to end horribly. And then, as well, she officially put the first Tevarin cabinet member in the UEE. So the first ever UEE cabinet member, Tevarin cabinet member, has been hired under her administration. So, two things I can glean from some of these victories. What's your stance on Synth World? She likes it. She wants to make it more public. She doesn't like she doesn't like secrets. She wants to let out more of the information about Synth World. Declassify it. So there's a couple things. First off, the hiring of the Tevarin cabinet member is a gigantic indication that she wants to work with Suj Kosi and the Universalists, as well as she wants to work with Mira Nago, Mira Nago, I think it's how you say her name, because she also wanted to do the Tevarin. When she was running for Imperator, she wanted to do a Tevarin affirmative action to get more Tevarin involved in the government. So this is another kind of tip of the hat towards her. And since she is really the leader of the Transitionalists, or one of the major leaders of the Transitionalists, while Suj is, quite frankly, at this point, I think the highest profile member of the Universalists that's still around, because Costigan is no longer Imperator, and the former High Secretary, who was the head leader of the Senate, I forgot her name, but she also ran for Imperator and lost. So I don't think she's in the Senate either. So I believe Suj might be the face of the Universalist Party right now, which is kind of weird because it's the most popular party in the UEE, and Tevarin is like the front man for it. Interesting. GI, thanks for that Prime sub, and Munstras, thank you so much for this no dance moves in this one, unfortunately. UEE is a space version of the UN. Kind of. It's more like a space version of the EU. The UN mixed with the EU. Yeah, so that's the reality, is that she's entirely reliant on her on the voters, because the Senate, she's trying to make gestures towards the Senate to try to get them to come to her side, but because she doesn't have a political party, it seems like most of the Senate is kind of doing this. You won, cool. See you in 10 years. The people wanted you, we didn't. Deal with it. And so they're stonewalling her pretty hard early on, or at least making gestures towards stonewalling her in terms of her agendas. So it'll be interesting to see who her High Secretary is, because the High Secretary is what's going to matter in terms of how to get stuff done, because the High Secretary is going to be the one who has to whip the Senate into doing things. So She's going to be very reliant on the people to putting pressure on the Senate to get stuff done. And she's also making inroads, doing things that's going to be very unpopular with the establishment, especially the centrists. The centralists are going to hate her. They already hate her, but they're going to hate her more. So I have a theory of what's going to happen, but you have to watch the report that I just recorded tomorrow, and just hear about that. I wouldn't, you know what? I could see CIG doing that, where the senators were actual NPCs. I can also see them being very difficult to kill, if not nearly impossible. Might be wrong, but I think there are definitely a few missing. There's one missing rogue AI ship, yes. There's been a couple of them that were destroyed, but there's one that had an AI on it that was a colony ship that's been, pieces of it have been discovered, but not the entire ship. Oh, thank you, CIG, for retweeting that go live there. Be like CIG and favorite and retweet. Like and retweet. So yeah, we're currently neck deep into a new year with a new Imperator, and the lore is going to be getting interesting. So one of the things I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to start doing reports on events in the verse, as well as news stories and political stories in the verse. I'm going to start doing the reports about them, so that, and for those of you guys who haven't seen the reports from a Galactic Historian, they're very simplistic. They're mostly audio with some very basic video elements, but those video elements are like static, just so that you kind of get the idea of what is being said. But it's fairly simple. Do I think there will be a major change within the Senate come next senatorial election towards Addison's party? Addison doesn't have a party, so no. And I don't think she will join a party or form a party. I think she will simply just kind of continue. Though I do think that there'll probably be a few that will try to work with her, in the sense that non-aligned party members running for Senate. But we'll see. I don't know when that election is. I imagine it's in 2 years, but we'll see. Dynamic events to prevent assassination attempts, or just dynamic events where, like, a senator is in a system, like, you know, Suj Kosi is flying through the Stanton system, so they exist, you know, like that, like, not they don't exist, but like that they're just in the area, and they'll be going through at a certain time at a certain place, and you don't know about it, or you have to figure it out, and then you may be able to kill them. Something like that would be interesting. Though I don't think Suj would be the one that you go. They do. They probably do it with some other folk. So yeah, basically dynamic events are going to be a big thing for those of you guys who haven't seen for those of y'all who haven't seen the latest reports and such. With the progress tracker, dynamic events are a big thing. There's at least 2, possibly 3 dynamic events being planned by CIG, which are being kept under wraps, that they're not going into detail about. All they say is there's going to be dynamic events. You'll find out what those are. And for those of you who don't know what a dynamic event is, the first ever dynamic event, according to CIG, was Fleet Week. It was Invictus Fleet Week, because the Invictus celebration had those ships coming in and docking and then leaving at a certain times. That was the event sort of thing. So it'll be something like that, like the coming Xenothreat attacks, where you will have a random call to go out to deal with the problem and then come back. But it's not scheduled. It's just, it'll happen depending on where you are in the verse at that time. So you're going to see a little bit more of that kind of dynamic feel where things are just happening in the universe at random times for it. But it'll be a larger event. So something that's big, but it's happening spontaneous. That didn't really feel dynamic, to be honest. Well, dynamic in the sense that it was happening in the universe rather than just being entirely driven by players. Speaking of bad cooking, any idea when ship galleys will be functional? Not as of yet. I don't know if Jake's in chat. Jake, when is the next update for the progress tracker? But we'll probably know more about that kind of thing when we get into the progress tracker. What do I think the plan will be for Earth when it's time to add it into the universe? I think it'll be the capstone of the game. I think they will have finished the game when they get to Earth. I don't think they're in any hurry to get to Earth. I think Earth and the entire Sol system is going to be an entirely different beast. I would imagine they could take up to a year just for them to make the Sol system. Whereas, the way that they're working, it can take a patch for them, a quarter for them to make an entire solar system. I feel like Earth will probably take a lot longer because Earth and the Sol system in general. Just because it's the oldest system in humanity, so it has the most development out of any other systems. Like even the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, I wouldn't be surprised if there were colonies like floating cities in Venus, or if Venus isn't just straight up terraformed. There's no records, at least that I've seen, of Venus being terraformed, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I want to cook space spaghetti. Yes. I do too. They had him in the game called Ace Combat Infinity. Sadly, you cannot play that version in the game anymore. Oh. Dynamic events, you mean there, Jacob? Yeah, I can see something like that. No, they're not going to do it in 1-to-1 scale. I think they'll do it. They don't do it in 1-to-1 scale. The entire universe is like 1/32nd scale compared to the actual Earth. Maybe 1/100th scale, something like that. There's a scaling system they use for planets and moons. Like moons are slightly bigger than planets are in terms of their real life counterparts. Like for instance, all of the planets, the terrestrial planets of the Stanton system are super Earths. So they're at least twice the size of Earth. But in reality, if you look at them, their landmass covers like Russia. But the moons are smaller than Luna, than Earth's moon. But they're the size, they have the landmass of India. So they're actually pretty close to Luna. Well, not pretty close to Luna, but like they're much bigger in comparison to the planets. Just because they scale things at a proportional rate. 1/10 of the real planet size. Yeah, something like that. I agree with you, Heggy Winnie. Make Terra the new capital of the UEE. But that's just me and my transit ways. The dynamic events on the game Ace Combat is where you are in the middle of a mission and another mission comes up. Normally, it does not come up. It does not come up at all. Okay, I see what you mean. I think I get what you mean. So, what do I think the major landing zone on Earth will be? It'll be New York. There's actually 4 landing zones. New York, London, Moscow, and Beijing are the 4 major landing zones on Earth. New York is the capital of the UEE, though, because the UEE was the UN, and then it became the UNE, and then it became the UPE, and now the UEE. So I'm imagining the Senate building is just built on where the current United Nations building is. So good night there, Skevin. Long time no see. What's been a couple months? Hey, John. I'm glad you come by. Question: do you think? Oh, yeah, by the way, you can ask questions at this point. I'm going to go over a little bit into more detail about like the ISC. We'll talk a little bit about that and the monthly report. But I'm done talking about kind of the most of the recent lore stuff. We'll see how that goes. I will also add that Xenothreat, which is going to be coming up soon, likely sometime in the first 6 months of this year, hopefully. The Xenothreat stuff is going to heavily influence lore, if not already being influenced by lore, just because of the nature of the missions that are coming out there. Question: do you think the unstable jump point can open doors on dynamic events to regroup players in the same systems? Probably not. I think we haven't heard anything about unstable jump points. We have heard things about collapsing jump points, that jump points could collapse. I think CIG will play with the idea of jump points, and I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with the idea of an unstable jump point, one that won't necessarily always be in one place, but move around a system, or its exit will move around the system. But there's nothing affirmative, like definitive about that. So I don't know. I don't know how that would work. That's a good question for CIG though. What are their plans with jump points and that kind of stuff? At least to get their ideas. Yeah, I got stuck at working where I didn't have access to the internet. I got a lot to catch up on, I'm sure. That reminds me, exclamation point January if you're in the Twitch chat. I've had a lot of people get confused about this with comments on the YouTube video, and as well as in the YouTube chat. I don't have a bot working quite yet, so when I say something like, hey, exclamation point RT or exclamation point January, that's usually for the Twitch chat, because I have to work something with the YouTube chat at some point. But that is the link. I just linked it in the YouTube chat as well as the Twitch chat for our giveaway. We're giving away an LTI game package with a Asperia Talon Shrike, with 2 additional skins, all courtesy of CIG. Thank you, CIG. So you go. Hopefully you enjoy that. You can enter to win. All you have to be doing to enter to win is you have to make sure you're following us on Twitch and subscribe to us on YouTube. And that's it. And then sign in through that site. So. I really love the idea of CIG using dynamic events to let us shape the story of the PU going forward. It was one of the things I liked about one of the things about the Eves universe I really liked. Yeah, I think CIG wants to do stuff like that. I think also CIG learned that. I don't think CIG was planning that. I think that people kept demanding it, and eventually they tried it, and it literally broke the servers when they did the Invictus Flight Week, and they're like, events are the future. They're gonna break the game when Xenothreat, the Xenothreat thing happens. The servers will be on fire. There's just no way. Like everyone will want to come back. Everyone wants to go fight the bad guys. Why not? It's the first major event in Star Citizen. It's the first story beat of Star Citizen. You better believe people coming back for that. Ain't nobody want to I was a Jumptown Wars veteran. Okay, I fought in the Jumptown Wars. That was 2 years ago. And it's already mythologized. Well, I also kind of want to try to help make it mythologized because I made a freaking documentary about it. But still, I was there, and many of the community members were. And as the community is growing, it's becoming a distant memory, a mythological event, which was one of the best times to be in Star Citizen. And I hope things like in the future, the new people who are just joining us right now, who go fight in the against the Xenothreat, in a year they'll see these new people coming in, and you'll sit there going like, huh, I fought against the Xenothreat invasion, and everyone will be like, oh, that's really cool. I wish I was there. I want that kind of feeling again. What is a Xeno event? Xenothreat. So the Xenothreat is an organization. It's a really weird name, but it's an organization. It's a gang, really, that runs Ruin Station in the Pyro system. They're a gang of hyper xenophobic humans. Many of them are ex-military, but they they think that the UEE has been infiltrated by aliens, and that aliens control the government, and that they need to destroy the UEE in order to save humanity from alien invasions. So, Xenothreat. If you saw some, there you may have been out of the loop, but there has been CIG has revealed. It's been leaked before this, but CIG revealed that they're planning on an event with the Xenothreat attacking the Stanton system. They call it the Assault on Stanton, and the players will be able to fight Xenothreat to try to save the Stanton system for the UEE. So you get to fight on the side of the UEE and get money for it through missions. So, hey, New Lexicon, and hey, Papa, how you doing, buddy? I fought in the Jumptown Wars, blurry-eyed spacer, half slipped over near the empty beer mug. I was there. It's great marketing. That's a good point. Yeah, it's a great way of getting people involved in it. Do we think they'll make a stealth large of a Corvette class ship at some point? Stealth, like yes and no. I wouldn't expect stealth like you see in Eve, where it's like active camo. But they will definitely, I mean, to a degree, that's what the Nautilus is. The Nautilus is more of a stealthy Corvette. It is a Corvette. But yeah, I could see something like that. CIG wants to play around in the Corvette size a lot. I think CIG sees that as their comfortable zone of, we can make a ship that a couple people can run and fuck around with, but not cost them an arm and a leg to man and function. So I would expect to see the Corvette size be as frequent. I expect the size of ships to go from single-seater or single-man ships to be freaking like 30 of them, 40 of them, including things like the Vanguard and the Cutlass and the Freelancer. And then you'll see it start to piddle out towards the large ships. And then once it reaches the Corvette size, I expect like 10 of them in the Corvette size. And then it starts to go down from the Corvette size. So you have the frigate size is smaller, then destroyer, and then maybe even like only one or two up in the higher ones. Hey, Vincero. How you doing, buddy? What if I wanted to fight against the side of the Xenothreat against the UEE? Xenothreat are sociopathic or psychopathic, paranoid terrorists. If you tried to shoot the UEE in front of them, they just assume that you're fighting for the UEE and shoot you anyways. The Xenothreat is not interested in recruiting you. Xenothreat is interested in controlling the region. These are not people you fight for. At least not in this situation. Oh, thank you for that. What, 1,000 black sheep Cosmo? 1,000 biddies. Essentially, like that's the lore angle of it. In reality, CIG doesn't want you to fight with them. They in the future, I'm sure that they'll have like both sides kind of situation where you can fight for one side or the other. But CIG isn't there yet, so they want to have a good story where there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, and you're fighting for the good guy. That kind of story, and it's okay to have those stories every so often. Thanks, Black Sheep Man. Xi'an. It's the wrong one there. Call back. Do I think Chris Roberts will be one day be the Imperator? No, Chris Roberts is dead in the Star Citizen universe. He died in the 21st century. These are the bad guys. Well, here's my theory as to what they're probably going to do with the story. They're going to have the Xenothreat be defeated or maybe not defeated. Depends on what the players do. Though I'm feeling like most likely players are they'll probably have some sort of threshold, or they'll just kind of come up with like they kicked the Xenothreat this so many times, it makes sense they wouldn't come back. And then when we get the Pyro system, when you go into the Pyro system, one of the factions you could fight for is Xenothreat. Because one of the realities about failed invasions and failed military operations is that if you do a failed military operation, it makes you weak to other outside influences coming in and attacking you. So them failing to invade the Stanton system will probably signal to the other gangs of the Pyro system, because remember, there are many gangs in the Pyro system, that Xenothreat is weak. And so they'll probably try to attack and reclaim or control Pyro Station. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an ongoing dynamic event where you can sign up with one or many sides and go fight for Pyro Station to control it. So that leads into an all-out war going on in the Pyro system, which is great for people who want to fight. Combat folk. That's their shit. And so that way you have multiple sides you want to fight with. You want to fight with Pyro, with the Xenothreat? You can. You want to fight for some of the other gangs? You can. You want to fight on your own against all of them? You can. White Wolf will tell you this, that Javelin is not the Xenothreat. What do you think about the example? Specific jump point opens once a time by years to hunt or mining is something really great to get. Yeah, maybe like a rare jump point opening up just where something very rare inside. Yeah. You'll find out. I know it, but I'm not telling you. I know it not because I actually experienced it at all, but because it's complicated. Until Addison brings CR back in AI form. That's right, Jay. That's the true story. Addison's going to revive Chris Roberts in the universe to have him become Imperator. Because it's a video game, Phantom? What's the fate of the synth world with Addison in charge? Probably more funding. Addison really wants to make it go public and get all of the technology out there. I think she also kind of wants to outsource the technology, like to help to try to bring in the Xi'an and the Banu in with them. For some reason, we pimped out our wives in Fallout 2 because it was allowed and we wanted to see what would happen. Oh, for the same reason. Okay. Why do people want to fight on? Yeah. Why do people choose Caesar's Legion in Fallout New Vegas, even though they are literally fascist cosplayers? Because why not? It's the same thing. People like to explore different worlds, and that's fine. What is Synth World made for, though? So Synth World, for those of you who don't know, is a artificial planet. And when I mean artificial planet, I don't mean a Dyson sphere. I don't mean a ring world. I mean, Earth? That, but metal. Basically. I assume that it's they're trying to use all of human technology, including things like gravity generators and all of their engineering prowess to try to efficiently make a world that will stay together, that won't break apart, while still having enough power to keep the gravity generators working, to keep it spinning so it has a normal environment. They don't just want to build a planet, they want to build a planet and then terraform it and create like a natural planet with atmosphere and everything that just happens to be artificially made. That's essentially what they want to do. Do I like the synth world? I think it's a cool idea, and the whole concept of the synth world is literally a quest line. Like, the writers even said, like, synth world is just, it's a story point that they want to tell stories about and make the universe more dynamic and interesting, but also to have the players make the decision of what the ultimate fate of synth world is. Does humanity need the extra planet? Is there a land shortage in the UEE? Well, most of the conflicts in human history and in human alien history have to do with land and territory. The Xi'an and humanity nearly went to war over it. So the idea of creating Synth World will essentially do two things. One, it'll prevent from the UEE having to, and all of the intelligent species in the galaxy, to have to terraform planets. Because when you terraform planets, especially planets that are the best to terraform, you're usually running the risk, if not just straight up killing a bunch of the native flora and fauna on the planet so that you can put your own native flora and fauna. So the moral question is it moral to destroy a planet with life, with like even bacterial life, so that you can live on it when that bacterial life could eventually evolve into sentience? That's the question. And that's actually a question that scientists even today are asking, like in terms of big philosophical questions about the morality of things like terraforming, or even going to Mars and staying. Like there's a lot of arguments like in IRL that if we go to Mars and find that it has life, that we just leave it alone. You know, even bacterial life, because that means that we shouldn't be influencing that life. We should let it grow on its own. So, is Synth World orbit around a star? Yeah, it's Kronos is the system. It's called Project Archangel. It's around its own system. Artificial worlds to this kind of research, then Project Genesis. Yeah, I guess I could see Project Genesis like that. And with Addison in charge, we're going to have our military ships taken away since she can make the law that we can't purchase warships anymore. I don't know if she'd do that. She did soften her approach to the Xi'an, or to the Vanduul a little bit. She understood. She said in a couple of things like, "Yeah, we're at war with the Vanduul. I'm not gonna try to cripple our attempts to defeat an enemy." But she also wants to move away from military application of everything and more focus on research and education. So, Star Citizen 10.9, Attack of the Synth World. Someone said, like a Halo ring or a Shield World in Halo. It's kind of more like a Shield World, but whereas the Shield World has like the inside of the planet is the terraformed thing, it's more like the outside. I'm assuming that the way that Synth World works, based off of what I've seen and what I've heard, is that the outside would be a terraformed planet with life and dirt and trees and rocks, and then you could go inside the planet and there would be another ring of life and dirt and trees and rocks, and then another ring around that. So you could have not just one planet, but you really have like 6 planets where you have different levels upon which you live on, which allows for much more space and much more habitability. So, and that was the other thing, is that they don't want to kill potentially sentient species, but they also don't want to risk going to war over resources or going over land, over territory, because they need to expand, because God knows how many Xi'an exist, and trillions of humans, hundreds of trillions of humans exist in the UEE. So, can the Synth World be moved? I don't know. It might be. It's Cybertron. Yeah, no, that's what Synth World is. It's Cybertron. This one girl opened up her jump point for me and tell me what's inside. Candy Timbot. Oh. Do you think we'll ever see black holes in game? Yes. TAMSA system. Oh, excuse me. There's a TAMSA system. It has a black hole at its heart. No star, but a black hole. Yes, but Gigatron also had worlds within worlds. Maybe Gigatron. I feel like taking away military ships would be against the CDF initiative, and the advocacy needs to protect some systems. Yes. Kind of. Though, like those who are familiar, as far as I'm familiar with Cybertron had like a living ecosystem just out of silicon on top of it. Jump drive for planets. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if a planet could fit through a jump point. That's the only problem. Oh. Bloodguard, thank you so much for Prime. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Taking a veteran of the Jumptown Wars. God, why am I hiccuping? I'm going to be right back while I hiccup some more. Oh. Don't go anywhere, chat. I'm going to get some water. Hiccup. Agua for me. Can't drink getting blood work done tomorrow. You can drink water, can't you, though? Hey, Vince. You see me now, a veteran of Jumptown Wars. My energy is spent last, and my coolers are destroyed. I've used all of my weapons, and I'm helpless and bereaved. Wounds are all I'm made of. Classic metal, nice. Wait, so would time dilation be a part of the gameplay with black holes and interstellar style? No. No. They want it, but they wouldn't have time dilation because it wouldn't make any sense. It'd be difficult. You just wouldn't be able to play. So. Boo. High chair. Thank you, Robert. Whew. Whew, Lord. Yeah, they wouldn't do that. All right. Any other questions you guys have before we move on? Thought I saw somebody had a question as well that I skipped. Question, artificial worlds of this kind of research than Project Genesis? Yeah. Yeah, in an MMO it wouldn't work. They have a hard time using time acceleration for multiplayer mods for KSP, so it wouldn't work in Star Citizen. First time I've been able to watch live stream rather than the YouTube video, and now I've been called back to work. I'm sorry, Rough Waters. Thank you for watching, Rough Waters. I'm glad you were able to watch it. I'm going to try to do some more of these. I might do another Office Hours-esque, or just another Office Hours on like Mondays or something like that to kind of chill out towards the beginning of the week, at an earlier time so that you guys can watch it, because I know this is great for like Australians and some Americans, but you know, some people have to work late, and it's terrible for Europeans. I'd be down for Kerbal Citizen. I'm a big fan of Kerbal Space Program. In fact, we'll be playing Everspace 2 tomorrow. So we'll be doing that a little bit early on. Before we might play it all day. We'll see. I'll definitely be playing Star Citizen on Saturday, but... What's my favorite ship? The Freelancer. Micro jump point for gates between worlds. Do you reckon there'll be in the future you could put up the captain's table and other stuff, the podcast and such? And podcasts and so make it easier to listen to the car. So I've had a lot of people ask that question about making the captain's table and like office hours as podcastables. And to be honest, it's a lot of work. It doesn't sound like it's a lot of work, but I tried to do the same thing with the Spice Must Roll, which is my tabletop RPG stream that I do every Saturday morning before Captain's Table. And I just couldn't keep up with the work. It's a lot of things to remember. It's a lot of things to work on. I have to convert everything after the broadcast into a podcast format. Then I'd have to upload it, and I have to make sure it's all of the metadata is correct and have it. And it's a pain in the ass. So probably not. Maybe if this was my job, it's not my main job. If this was my main job, yeah, sure, I'd do it, but it's not right now. Yeah. Maybe in the future, I'll pull a CIG and say, yeah, maybe. Probably not immediately, but soon. TM. Do I run an org? No, I don't run an org. I'm part of Test Squadron. Best scored on. And before you ask, no, it has nothing to do with Test and Eve, except for the fact that some of our members are from the Eve Test, and our leader, Montoya, was a Eve Test member. But it's not related. It's not like the Goon Swarm, or the Goon Org, which is essentially just was a port from Eve to Star Citizen. And there's some other orgs like that who move from like Eve to ED, and they're all the same people, and it's run by the same people. Test is like an independent branch of the Test Squadron from Eve. So only once a week, or it's Zoom classes most of the time, but I have to go in once or twice a week because we rotate in to monitor kids who do come to school, because not every kid has internet access at home, or the parents just still send them in because they don't want them at home. So not many, but because we're in the middle of a really, really dangerous pandemic, and the superintendent basically was like, please don't send your kids to school. We can't stop you from doing it, but please don't. So most of the parents agreed. We're like, yeah, cool. So let me put it this way. There are less than 50 kids at school at any given time for right now in my school, for a school that was thousands of kids at it before the pandemic. So thank you there. Thank you there, GR. It's a mess, but you do what you got, and you adapt to what you can. Teachers are very good at adapting to our lessons just because we have to, because we don't know if we're even going to have the budget to do the stuff we want to do. And Montoya is a good guy. I got to have him on the captain's table at some point. I don't know when, but at some point. It'd be cool if one of the dynamic events in the future is finding the rest of that lost AI ship you were talking about earlier. Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in seeing that as well. Question. Was watching Chlorophyll's review on Cyberpunk, and he mentioned in passing how much more coherent the lore of CP is in comparison to Star Citizen. What's your? I would appreciate my fishing. I don't know who Chlorophyll is, so I couldn't tell you based off of their own experiences in Star Citizen. I will say that and I don't know what it means by coherent. I've played both games. I would say that Cyberpunk benefits from the fact that it's not a video game. It's an IP. For those who don't know, Cyberpunk was a tabletop for like 30 years, just like Dungeons and Dragons. And it had its own universe. Night City is part of that universe. I did lore videos on it even before the game came out to show you the kind of basis of the history. They had an extensive history with probably, I wouldn't be surprised if there was 100 writers who worked on Cyberpunk at some point in terms of the tabletop, plus the writers of the game. So they have that advantage that they're pulling from a very deep well of lore that they can just kind of tack on to it. In terms of more coherent, I would disagree that it's more coherent in the sense that it makes sense. I would say that it's more visible is the major difference. Star Citizen has lots of coherent lore. The companies exist in universe. You can see their names all over the place. You can see their products. However, you don't have a lot of connection to those things. You don't meet people who work for Gemini Weapons, because Gemini Weapons is headquartered in ArcCorp. So you don't have those missions where you're dealing with Gemini Weapons. You don't have the factions who are constantly doing things. And that's because Star Citizen isn't finished yet, whereas Cyberpunk is. So I think that's I think it's an unfair comparison. So, but I don't know who Chlorophyll is. I don't know if they do Star Citizen lore or whatever. But again, yeah, it would be an unfair comparison. It's like people who compare Elite Dangerous to Star Citizen. They're not the same game. Just because they both have space and you explore stuff doesn't mean they're the same game. Or even in the same genre. In some cases, Elite is much more of a exploration game than Star Citizen is. Its focus is more on the macro scale than the micro scale. They're trying to get to more of the micro scale, but not quite there yet. It does have it definitely does. Star Citizen does have a coherent timeline and outline article. They exist. It's just very basic because it's never been updated since the original launch. What CIG's lore lacks compared to something like Cyberpunk is just time, and someone no one's put together a comprehensive story of Star Citizen like like a textbook style of Star Citizen. Do you think they will make a combat ship that uses some form of remote-controlled drones to fight? No. I don't think so. I don't think they'll do combat drones. Yeah. Hey, Star Citizen modding. I don't know if you actually do Star Citizen modding, but if you do Star Citizen modding, I'm looking forward to when Squadron 42 comes out, because I'm sure you'll have a blast. Yeah, he does Star Citizen videos, and by coherent, I think he meant that what you posted about drawing from the deeper well. Yeah. Star Citizen has the pieces of that coherency there. They just haven't added it yet. They haven't fleshed out the mission givers. They haven't given more broad stories and effects. You don't meet people in, Gemini Arms uniforms. You don't go to the Gemini Arms weapons facility and pick up stuff. Not yet, at least. So. If Squadron 42 can be modified, then there's going to be ponies in it within 6 months. If Squadron 42 can be modified, there's going to be Star Citizen private servers in 6 months. Because all that Squadron 42 is an offline version of Star Citizen. They're the same game. They work out the same principles. They use the same technology. So, importing Star Citizen assets into Squadron 42, like the Stanton system, will be done. And the server in this case is being routed through your client, because they've even said that the way that the Squadron 42 works is that they will boot up a virtual server onto your computer, and then you will be playing on the game through the server. All it's going to take is a clever modder to figure out how to load in the assets for the Stanton system and then run that background simulation instead of on a PC, on a server, and then they have to figure out how to connect all of the different players together. And bingo, bango, bongo, you've got a private server for Star Citizen. It's effectively the same thing. And how I know this could be the case is because this is exactly how 5M and Red M work, where they have an multiplayer and a single player version of, GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, and a multiplayer. What they do is they usually take the single player version and then modify it into a multiplayer function to make private servers. It works the same way. If you talk about the C2 Hercules, I'd love to hear the differences between the M2 versus the M2. So C2 is the civilian version and M2 is the military version. The major differences between the two is that the M2 has more armor. So they stripped out some of the armor and probably some of the redundancies for more cargo space between the C2 and the M2. That's the real difference. In reality, I wouldn't really care for the two. Like, the C2 is fine. I don't think there's going to be a real reason to have the M2 unless you want a military drop ship. Unless you're using it for more dropping a tank on the front lines, a tonk on the front lines. Astropub, do you think Star Citizen lore will benefit from a book series like Halo or Star Wars and flesh out the world versus doing it in game? Yes and no. Yes, because they already do that. People just don't read them. They have, I want to say 8, maybe a dozen plus short stories that they've written for Star Citizen. I think if they expanded on any of those stories, they could definitely expand on the universe. Star Citizen could use, I think Star Citizen honestly could just use something like an animated series, similar to what they did with the reunion video. Just that, but as a series of 5-10 minute videos over an hour or two. Because Star Citizen fans and gamers are very visual. That could probably help expand that a little bit more. Someone will put a Star Wars paint job on top of the Star Citizen and be 100% okay with that. It's going to happen too. The key is the real question is if Star Citizen works if Squad 42 works the way that they've said it does, it's only a matter of time before there are massive modifications to Squadron 42 with Star Citizen assets. It's going to happen. CIG can't stop it except for issuing cease and desists. And quite frankly, they shouldn't. I've been listening to the Star Citizen Short Stories podcast, and they're amazing. I love them. They're really good. Yeah. The entire story of the history of Dugan, Alex Dugan, and the belligerent duck came from one of their short stories. Should Star Citizen make more short movies like Reunion? Yes, they do. Question: are those stories that nobody reads background writing for Squadron 42 side quests? Some of them are. Some of those stories talk about Kid Crimson, who's a member of Squadron 42. There's a couple of characters in that they talk about in stories and histories of who are specifically related to Squadron 42 characters. So it's not really side quests as much as related to background information for some of these characters. I find it hard to sit down and read through a lot of the stories. It's one of the reasons I like content like Galactic Historian. Yeah, I think most Star Citizen fans are visual. They want visual things, or at least auditory things, because they don't want to read, because they don't play video games to read. They play video games to play. So as a result, people tend to, and because there's already an overwhelming amount of Star Citizen stuff to talk about that's been published, people just no, I can't, not gonna do it. So and I wouldn't say, and I'm a little harsh saying that nobody reads it. There is a lot of people who read those stories. There is a dedicated fan base in the Star Citizen community that reads those stories. However, when I say nobody reads them, I mean I can mention Kid Crimson and probably only 4 of you who are watching this right now, even maybe at most 10 of you who are watching on YouTube after the fact right now, who even know who Kid Crimson is. That's it. Like, it's not a very popular thing in the wider community. Similar to Star Citizen, or to lore. Lore is not really popular in the wider community either. Yeah, Star Citizen Sourcebook would be great. That is something I would 100% be okay. I would not volunteer. I'd love to be paid to write one or to help write one. I've been on the Astro Show for my lore stuff. Yeah, lore stories. Later, Rough Riders. Thanks for hanging out, man. May the force be with you. Stay safe out there. To get to the story in the video format. Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people listen to me rather than watch me, or just kind of put me on the background. I hear you. I see you. You, who is working right now, tapping away at your keyboard. You're looking at, you're slowly turning and looking at me, going, "Wait, he's talking to me." Yes, I'm talking to you. You made an error there in the it's right there on your screen. Fix it. Your boss is going to hate you for that. What are you having for dinner? I know people kind of do because I do it. I'll put on things in the background that it has some audio, it has video, and I'll watch the video, but I'm mostly listening to the audio and kind of occasionally glance at the video. No, Kid Crimson, not King Crimson. I'm glad to hear that, David, man. There are so many people who, like, let me put it this way. There's lots of Star Citizen lore videos out there. I'm not the only one who does them. But a lot of them are overviews or like an hour plus long content, which is made as part of a group of people who do more Star Citizen information than just lore. And if you look at those videos compared to those people's normal video content, you're still looking at most, like 100,000, maybe 500,000. And those ones that are 500,000 have been out for like 8 years and are woefully out of date. So compared to like some videos that have been about Star Citizen in those same channels, which are 2 million views, you know, something like that. Well, thank you, Sky. Puts on Sky X-Files because clearly Paul can't see his monitor. Did I watch WandaVision? I have seen the first 2 episodes, and I think the 3rd episode's coming out tomorrow, right? Or coming out tonight at midnight or something like that. Would you do the shorts they put out, like Sid and Cyrus? Would be a story of good 2 mercs in their last job. I'm torn about that because I don't want to step on Meyer, because Meyer was doing that for a while, where he was doing kind of like an audiobook format of those, like, telling the story with full like audio, like an audio dramas of all of these with his own voices and such. And there was Tales from the Verse or Lorecast, something like that. that did that as well, where they're kind of doing dramatic retellings of the stories themselves. So I don't want to step on any toes with that, because I want you to watch that content as well. I'm definitely going to talk a little bit about it, because I did, like, for instance, I told the story of the belligerent duck with Alex Dugan, and I think it's called Wanted is the name of the story. Alex Dugan and what's his name? Maz Hulan. Maz Hulan, yeah. The Banu boy. Well, they don't have genders. Chicken rice bowl. Sounds good. Do something real quick. Oof. Boy, yeah. What's the most interesting podcast for Star Citizen lore on the internet? Like podcast format? I don't think it exists. But besides Galactic Historian. One of the things I am planning on doing, and this is something I'm actually planning on doing as a podcast format, is I'm planning to do a monthly podcast sit down with a couple of members from the Star Citizen community and just talk about one topic once a month. Just kind of a back and forth in a more, Joe Rogan traditional podcast style, with some editing and that kind of stuff. I'm planning on doing that once a month. That I might I'll probably release that to like a podcast format as well as on YouTube. But it won't be live or anything like that. We'll be doing it. It'll be pre-recorded. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and Algrid, who's a big lore guy as well, if you guys watch the Info Runners, he's also a teacher, so we both share that kind of stuff. Wants to get involved in it. I'll probably talk with a couple of the other lore folks out there, like Jail and other folk like that. Kind of like the Captain's Table, but not, like I said, not live. You probably won't take a lot of questions, or if we do take questions, it'll be like, hey, ask us questions and we'll answer them the next week kind of thing. No problem, sheep. So, but it's not going to be Galactic Historian levels. It's not going to be levels of, like, I do research very well edited and paced with music and everything like that. It might have some, like, intro and outros with music, but it'll be mostly a discussion format. So we'll talk about, like, for instance, one of the things I want to talk about early on is the early history of the UEE. How can we piece together the early history of humanity in Star Citizen, and what do we know, what we don't know? What are things we'd like to learn more about? That kind of thing. Talk about, like, Addison and what she's currently doing, what she's going to run into. Talk about the Vanduul Wars, how that's been happening. Those sorts of things. The Xi'an, are they a threat? Are they an ally? That kind of thing. Some speculation and some background. Thank you, Cupan. I will treasure this. Hold on. I will treasure this, Cupan. You all need to see this. I will treasure this forever. The sitting birding me. I've come once again to ask you for another beer, Paul. Oh, Bernie, you Xi'an-loving bastard. He's even trying. Wait, if CR isn't Star Citizen and early UEE lore is recorded, quick, someone look back in the SC lore and see when Star Citizen's released. You don't want to know. We're all dead. Oh, the other thing, Sheep Killa, is you're asking about like do audio tellings or retellings of those stories. I don't know if Versecast still is around. Or those groups that were doing that. I think a lot of them fell apart, stopped working on them because nobody listened to them. And I don't mean like nobody listened to them. I mean that their audience was super small. Like it was like 100, maybe 200 people watching their videos or listening to their audio. And it took a lot of effort and time for them to put it together. And eventually they're just kind of like, it's not moving our content any. So do you think, Max asks, do you think new Babbages could be more wide? Like larger? Could new Babbage be larger? Yeah, I think you could expand it. It released in beta in 2077. Yes, that's the Cyberpunk meme. Star Citizen releasing in beta 2077. By the time Star Citizen release, we'll have real life jump drives. That's another meme. An old meme. I don't know why we're not doing anything to give away. Damn it, Bonser. What? I was so angry that my computer was failing that I forgot to turn off the timer for giveaways. Turn it off right now. 29:51. Yeah. Maurice walking? Yes, I 100% believe that is. That's right, Cal. I forgot that 2077 I think is the year that that the world ends in Fallout. Forget about that. Older meme, older than time itself, but not older than the beginning of Star Citizen development. If you believe some people, Star Citizen was first put into development in 2000 BC when the pharaohs first thought, spaceship. Fucking, I want that to be a meme. Star Citizen's been such a long development cycle that it's outlived 15 generations of humans. When Columbus first discovered America, Star Citizen was still in alpha. I did. I was actually live. I was one of the VIPs on some of the 890 jumps, so it was nice to watch there. Oh, nice. Congratulations, Downfall. I think Lorville does need a once-over to freshen up and add more new Babbage. It does need one more, but it doesn't need... It's not going to get it from Lorville. It's going to get it in the Hurston building. The Hurston Dynamics building. That big, like... thing that exists, the big arch, as it were, that's the building. That building is supposed to open up. There's supposed to be entire levels of that building you can go to with shopping centers and mission givers. There's supposed to be like beds and like apartments that you can rent out there. all of that was planned at one point, and I think they put the skids on it because they wanted to finish filling out the system before going back and giving it a once over. So, rumor was the Caesar flew Drake. Actually playing Stellaris on another screen while watching you this year. Your music soundtrack and Stellaris mesh pretty well. Nice. Do we prefer to watch on Twitch or YouTube? Either one's fine. I look at both. The purpose of me streaming it to both to both Twitch and to YouTube for this is, one, it works well as a video for people who miss the streams. It just automatically uploads to YouTube, which is nice. Two, for people on Twitch, it tells them, hey, I have a YouTube. Right there. And for those of you who are on YouTube, I have a Twitch. So instead of me reminding you at the beginning of every one of my videos, like some YouTube content creators do, that I stream on Twitch, I just stream to both. Question: what vision of combat gameplay do you expect in 2021 to have? That's a good segue. Let's get into that one too. Exactly. I want to kind of build both. History Channel after 00. How did the UEE build the pyramids? Yeah. Is AI banned because humanity did have an AI war? No, we never had an AI war, but we did have lots and lots of AI conflicts. So we had the Tokyo smart car incident. I think it's something like that, where they hooked up all of the automated cars in Tokyo to one central AI. And the AI proceeded to go crazy and kill everybody. Not murder everybody, but go crazy with cars, which are some of the most deadly creations humanity has ever built. So you can in Tokyo. You can imagine that ended well. Then you have the terraforming incident on Mars. I've got to do a huge I'm going to do a video on why AI is banned in the Star Citizen universe. There's the terraforming incident on Mars, where they used an AI to try to calculate and help them terraform faster on Mars. And the day before they were going to certify the planet as being safe to breathe in, where it was essentially already effectively terraformed, the entire atmosphere collapsed and killed everybody. And later investigations were like, yeah, the AI did that. Every time the AI has been developed, it's gone crazy and killed people. That's why it's never been built on a grand scale. There's never been a Skynet situation where they gave them the keys to the castle and decided to kill everybody. The closest event was a smart bomber incident where they tried to put a squadron of UEE bombers with an AI, and the AI then went rogue and disappeared. And they had to hunt them down and kill them because they feared that the AI bombers were going to the Xi'an Empire to do a sneak attack. So, yeah. You killed us all, Steblin. You killed us all. Hey, lore question. If a crusader is known to have high moral and being religious, why do they have the only current smuggling ship? That's a good question. That is a good question. Though I can answer it using modern day examples. The ship is designed to be to smuggle in the sense that it's almost an afterthought rather than a design it's a feature. It's a bug that's actually a feature, is what it is. It's mostly designed to do information running, but it also has cargo. But it's also designed to be a blockade runner. And the reason why it's designed to be a blockade runner is because I could see it being justified as if you need to get medical supplies or information to or from a planet that's being blockaded by pirates or by a hostile alien force or by people who are by some sort of conflict, then you need a ship to do the good deeds. Crusader isn't necessarily religious in the sense that they are a religious company. It's that the founders had more of a religious sensibilities, and I keep forgetting the guy's name, but the actual guy who eventually founded Crusader managed to convince the CEO of the biggest shareholder in the company to change the name to Crusader from Seraphim. AI bomber en route to Xi'an space. Communism is not an option. Yes. The AI development in Star Citizen needs to be the first AI war humanity has. Probably, yeah. It'll probably happen. I don't know. I don't think you're going to have an all-out war in Star Citizen until a while, but there's definitely going to be a lot of conflicts dealing with AI in game. August Dunlow, thank you, Downfall. I always forget his name. I did a video on him, but I keep forgetting his name. August Dunlow. He's not the founder of Crusader necessarily, because all he did was help buy a struggling shuttle manufacturer called Seraphim Systems, and then convince the owner of Seraphim to change the name to Crusader, and eventually gain control of Crusader because he had money. So it's complicated, like kind of like how Anvil wasn't Anvil; it was originally Chase Aerospace. Founded by a different person, but then the person who found Anvil was inspired by Chase Aerospace and eventually purchased all of the design rights for Chase Aerospace and then started making Chase Aerospace ships. For instance, like the Jupiter, which is technically Crusader, would have been the first Crusader ship. Before that, they made shuttles. So if there was any kind of shuttle manufactured by Crusader, it would probably technically be a Seraphim system shuttle, but with this Crusader on it. Dibs on being integrated with AI. What do you think of the ISC today? All right, I got to get into that one. Yeah, got to get into that one. But I'll end with the AI this question, which is discussion, which is if you've played Mass Effect, there are many Mass Effect missions that deal with rogue AI. I think at least one major one. I think there are multiple mission chains that deal with it. And I think you're more likely you're going to see something like that than you are with dealing with AI. Than you're going to see like an AI conflict or war. So, River Tech, What? CIG? What? For those of you who haven't watched the ISC, they build a river. And not like build a river as in like, oh yeah, let me path this out and then add some what. No, they procedurally generate a river using the tools they have. They have tools to create a river. And even populate the shoreline with trees. What? Moon Mission ME1, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah, that one. It was made by River Phoenix. Yes. The Thank you, JDC. I like the magazines too. Jump Point magazines are nice. What are your thoughts on having to reload magazines bullet by bullet? I personally feel like this would be hell for LMGs. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But I will say this about the Rivers. Rivers is good because it's one of those things that's going to add more life to the universe, and it shows that the Planetech team is looking to see how they can expand their basic tool set and improve the quality of the universe. So it's not just, it's never going to be stable. They're going to be changing, like when the planetary tech team stops working is when CIG shuts down. They're never going to stop building tools for that game, because I feel like that those people who are involved in the Frankfurt office are just going to keep working because they love what they do. They love this stuff. They That's why they worked for Crytek before they worked for CIG, because they love to work in this kind of stuff. So they'll build it. They'll keep working on it. They'll keep making it and designing it and improving on it, because Chris Roberts basically just handed them a check and said, don't fuck this up, which is great. All right, so let's go over this real quickly. What are my thoughts on having to reload magazines? Someone else pointed out that's the purpose of energy weapons. You don't have to manually load energy weapons. I don't think you'll ever have to manually load every magazine for like a light machine gun or for every gun you have. You can, or you can just buy magazines that are full. But I also like the idea because it makes laser weapons less cumbersome, but more canopery or Swiss Army knife ish, where like it's a one size fits all, or not Swiss Army knife. Like, I think it was right. The laser guns being a can opener, they can open up cans and they can do a few other things, but they're fairly good at what they do. Whereas a ballistic weapons will be more like a Swiss Army knife. Depending on what ammunition you load into it, how much ammunition, what type of ammunition will determine what it can do. I wouldn't be surprised if you had breaching rounds for weapons where you could fire it and it would fire explosive bullets at something that'll do different types of damage. So essentially, a ballistic weapon can turn into almost any type of damage, damage type weapon, depending on the bullets you use, which you have to sacrifice, hand loading that shit. You have to do that on. Okay. You have to sacrifice that for the flexibility that it gives you. Trade-offs. That's what CIG has been developing Star Citizen all about, is rock, paper, scissors gameplay, meaningful choices. Darts, yeah. Toy, thank you so much for the raid, buddy. Welcome from Toy Stream. Welcome to Office Hours. This is where we talk about Star Citizen lore and Star Citizen development and such over time. Let's do some this right here. Do I think Star Citizen will have hunting mechanics in the future, or possible to have that role? Yes. Guarantee it's going to happen. So far, they've done a good job of not fucking it up. Yeah. Tarkov Citizen. I mean, Tarkov is a good example because I think So, what Star Citizen is aiming to be is a bit of hard space shipbreaker, a little bit of Tarkov, a little bit of Arma. It's sim light and pulling from all sorts of other, like a little bit of DCS, all sorts of other games which do those things. And it's not going to do them as in depth as those games do, but it'll touch on those ideas enough to make it interesting in the universe they have it in, Like, I would expect, if you like hard space, I expect the salvage mechanic in Star Citizen to be diet hard space. It's not going to be voxel-based ships where you're, like, dynamically pulling things apart. But there'll be lines where you blow, you kind of set charges and blow them up, then use your tractor beams to pull things apart, throw portions of it into, say, your vulture or to your reclaimer, pull out certain aspects, like go in and pull out components before you salvage and save the components, rip off weapons and save the weapons. So unlike hard space, which you can like rip everything apart, Star Citizen will have components and like weapons and mounts that you can rip apart. But most of the rest of it is just going to be stuff that you break apart and chum it up enough so that it can make its way into a like a vulture or a reclaimer. Dude, I am pumped for ammo stripping. I hope they add a magazine retention system where you either get to dump the mag on the floor or retain it in person later. Yeah, I like that. Energy weapons for anti-personnel, ballistic weapons for armor-piercing rounds, so you can shoot people in armored vehicles and do some mention darts, tracking devices, that sort of thing. Yeah. Chemical weapons. I'm sure there'll be some energy rounds you can fire from the with ballistics, so we'll do some of that stuff. Thank you, Heroes. Yeah, you're not going to be carrying a ton of ammo either. Rock, paper, scissors, hand grenade. Exactly. It's like Escape from Tarkov, but if you don't want to load your maps, use energy weapons. Mags lose energy weapons. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing about, like, I think as Star Citizen is developed more, as we get more of the stuff for things like ship components, you're going to start seeing a lot more DCS bleed into Star Citizen. But it'll be one of those situations where if you want to fiddle with all of the dials and change all of the things in your screens, you can. You can tweak all of the performance of your ships down to its finest levels. But most of it, you're just going to hop in a ship and fly around. You don't have to. Like, that's the idea. And that was the kind of the vision that they first pitched with Star Citizen was, do you want to have very detailed startup routines and how everything works? You can do that. Do you just want to say ship on and everything turns on and you fly away? You can do that too. Which means that those who are going for those details are probably not going to have as much of an advantage. But I also imagine that those people who can do a manual startup of the ship, knowing exactly what switches to flip at what time to turn things on, will end up powering up their ship faster than somebody who just presses a button to power it up, because the automatic startup sequence will probably be a little slower. So those sorts of things, where if you really get into if you really dive into the mechanics and try to, dig in there and mess with things around in there, you can have an advantage in some way, shape, or form versus somebody who's just casually playing the game. So Rough Galaxy, if you're having a problem with the infinite loading screen bug at the very launch, you have to delete your user folder. It's a problem I've had many times. Do I think that they'll develop a weapon that fires both ballistics and lasers? Possibly. Be interesting. I wonder how we'll recharge energy weapons. Will we plug it in somewhere ship or recharge passively from our suit's battery? I think it's both. Though from what I've heard, there is definitely a recharge stations where you can go to your recharge station and like kind of let it recharge. Really? That's weird. How deep do you think ship customization will be to make it a luxury address? I think that's, let me put it this way. If CIG could figure out a way to make you change literally everything on the interior except for the bulkheads, they would let you do it. If they felt like that was possible without sacrificing performance, and that if it was something they could do that would improve something that they could do that would A, make sense in the universe, and B, be approved by Chris Roberts. Yeah, I think that would be the case. But I don't think that's going to come out anytime soon. Oh, it's the bed logout one. Oof. Yeah, you may have to do the character reset if you haven't done that yet. Taser shot shells are already a thing. Yeah. It's going to be slow as fuck, though, when you no longer have magical global inventory. Yes. So, like, reloading and all of those kind of things are going to be a lot slower, but the game is going to slow down. That's those people who are dealing with mining and refining right now already know that the game's going to slow down. Everything's going to slow down. It's not going to be a fast-paced action game all the time. You'll have to plan everything out. That's the kind of the purpose of it. That's a good one, Ruff. Joking with the org, I couldn't get into Elite because I found it shallow. I couldn't get into Star Citizen because of a loading bug. I'm not kidding when I say card space was the job I dreamed of having as a kid. They have anything remotely similar to Star Citizen, I'd be happy as a rainbow and a unicorn and a rainbow jag. Yeah. If I remember right, CIG said energy weapons could recharge from your suit. That's their main advantage, I think. Yeah, I think I remember that too. I remember them saying somewhere that you can recharge it from the suit, but you can also recharge it from your ship. With physical inventory, I suspect we're going to buy gear loadout a little like in Tarkov. If you go out there with a 200k, 25k loaded, or a 500k one, it's all about risk versus reward. CIG talked about exactly. You could lose everything you have on your person. You could get them back if you pay for insurance on it, or if you had like LTI, if you purchased it with real money, you just have to like get a claim timer, as it were, for it. Whereas, so the idea is do you want to have to wait 15, 20 minutes to get all your gear back through claim timers, or do you want to have a friend drag your dead ass body back to a hospital and revive you, because it'll take you less time and less energy, because 20 minutes for reclaimer time, or go find your dead body, reclaim your stuff, and continue moving, all those sorts of things. So some of the most approachable fun to be had in the game right now. I haven't played since last spring. Missions are pretty fun. They've revamped a lot of the missions, especially combat missions. There's a lot of the mission givers work now. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. I'd say look at the missions. There's a lot of stuff that's been added since last spring, but very unapproachable stuff, like fighting an Idris. You can do that now as a lawful or unlawful player. You want to go kill an Idris, you can do it. Players have figured out how to steal an Idris. So you can't spawn an Idris yet, though. So if you own an Idris, you can't spawn it. It's an NPC mission thing. I'd really like this game to have a PlanetSide 2 or squad level of play on the FPS level when it comes to orgs. I think that's the goal, is something like that with a little bit of Arma mixed in here and there. All right, let's go over. I'm going to go over a little bit of the monthly report. I'm glad we had a lot of discussion here. I didn't have to go over a lot of stuff. Okay, so welcome to the first PE report of 2021. This month's report details the work done throughout November and December, including features that made it into the recent 3.112 patch. Okay, let's look at it real quick together. What happened to the Idris you could spawn in hangars? That was a long time ago. Those weren't, you couldn't really spawn them. You could go see them in a presentation room at an IAE. AI team began in November exposing support for character traits and the skills and traits editor, which allows them to configure character traits that influence the skill calculation of behavior selection. They also added the ability to propagate tactical equipment requirement tags to TPS queries. So that just means that we're going to have more dynamic personalities and variation on the AI. New assumption node for tactic selection was implemented, which will be used to build combat tactics as subsumption functions and simulate the selection like sub-activities. This is a big improvement, as the team didn't have to switch sub-activities, so the character can maintain the context of what it's trying to do. So a subsumption character can still be trying to complete an action while also going through combat. More information was added to the range event dispatcher component debugging. This allows for the team to better debug events related to perception, distance, and directions thanks to the information on screen. They also introduced a range event receiver mission variable in the range event dispatcher. Okay, that just means they debug a new tool. Movement speed was updated in subsumption to use E movement speed variable type. This is a global enum that enables the team to correctly pass movement speed values within functions. This improves the robustness of the code and logic while developing better data consistency. Streamlining stuff. Nav mesh generation. This will fix inconsistencies in the nav mesh caused by the physics system not notifying the mesh when object containers are spawned, and make this for simpler regeneration requests for the whole bounding box. All right. Optimizations, cleanup. That's all stuff. All right, so this is pretty cool. I don't think there's any actual sound to this one. This is before. Notice how the player fires at it, and now all of a sudden, all of the AI come running out, right? Even if they were in other rooms. Now here, 3-second hearing perception areas. So they've made it so that the AI cannot hear outside of their room. So you see how he's fighting one AI there. Oh, there's another AI there. I don't know if that's a character. I think that's another AI. That's just why it's acting kind of weird. Or it could be a player. Now he goes into the other room, fires it off. He's fighting these guys. Notice how these guys back here never responded to that. So that's some of the new tech in there. So. Specifically for human AI combat behavior, several improvements and adjustments were introduced. For instance, the team adapted various behaviors to use the new tactic selection tech. This requires some behavior conditions, but will ultimately help enable the team to iterate faster for new tactics. So, new assignment ships, AI social AI finished the first iteration, giving of work giving NPCs the correct knowledge of how to use and pass through doors. NPCs can now trigger custom logic when traveling through specific navigation links associated with different usables. So traversals is a little bit better. Implementing specific job assignments, for example, a request performed maintenance for a specific wall panel. This can be used by designers to craft specific experience, but also in the future by players to request a hired NPC operate in a specific way. So they just started this. Okay? They just started being able to give orders to NPCs, like the tool that will eventually do that. So it's not coming anytime soon, guys. The facial animation team spent the last months of 2020 developing animations for several PU character sets. The body animators worked on flow graphs for exercise variations, including yoga and weightlifting. Nice. Alongside vending machines and arcade games. We'd be doing some weightlifting soon. We'd be getting ripped in the verse. We're gonna get all nice and limber in Star Citizen as well, and play some arcade games. That'd be nice. Throughout November, December, the concept artists work on visuals for 3 sets of armors planned to release in later 2021. The concept artists spent the last 2 months of the year visually exploring the Spyro system. We've been turning out great ideas and are excited to get Pyro assets into the pipeline, concept art team. The models and tech artists focused on their upcoming 2021 Q1 and Q2 goals, including clothing for the new refinery decks and to help characters feel more, for the refineries to feel more suited to the environment. For Q2, the team worked towards a suite of civilian clothing for Orison, alongside minor characters to help fill out the space. Art environment. The various branches of the environment team focused on delivering content for Alpha 3.1.2 throughout November and December. The modular team completed the largest rest stop variants that added refinery decks to 5 existing Lagrange point locations. These stations were also updated externally to reflect the industrial theme of refineries bring. One of the most significant visuals changes to Lagrange points came from the inclusion of volumetric cloud tech. There we go. Right. Blendtech team took several revisits the Stanton system, so this is kind of the rework of the Stanton. We've seen this already. Landing Zone team completed the work on IAE 2950 halls. Okay. Lorville was tweaked slightly for Alpha 3.12. New deal covered to make it to make way for less intrusive structural or restrictive areas. Restriction areas. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Art ships. This is what everyone's been going around on. The thick boy. The UK team began adding the final touches to Crusader Hercules, completing the lighting throughout December. So December saw the bridge and engineering areas polished and handed over to downstream teams too. There's the cargo bay. December saw the Aspera Italian flyable. Gladius received exterior component bays, and the Redeemer entered white box phase, while new tints of hollow ships were created for IAE. Okay. Multi-tool tractor beam, LMG, Gemini sniper rifle, Volt parallax electron rifle. While the initial art pass of the crossbow was completed, an art pass on new weapon attachments was undertaken too, including holographic sights and compensators. Okay. For ship weapons, sabot projectiles of the Idris barrel gun were created, which VFX are currently experimenting with. Work begins on a Moab-style bomb, and some existing missile assets were polished too. Okay. Weapon art began supporting the actors' features, work on mounted weapons. Mounted weapons? Star Citizen San Andreas? So for those of you who don't know what mounted weapons means, I don't know either. I'm assuming it means, hey, I'm taking this size 1 gun and I'm going to put it down on this tripod, and now I've got a mounted gun that I can then fire at a different location. So I'm happy about that. I want to hear some more information about that, though. So, or being able to pull out a mounted gun and then walk around with it firing it. So, involved prototyping a fixed weapons platform capable of accepting various size 1 ship guns. Yes, that is it. You can pull off a ship gun and then mount it on another mobile mount and fire. Do you want to put door gunners on your cutlass? Because now you can. Basically, what they're doing is allowing for those door guns in the Valkyrie to be added anywhere. Phantom. Audio. On the ship front, the audio team tackled the recently flyable Consolidated Outlands Nomad and Asperia Talon. Multi-tool tractor beam. A new junior sound designer is welcome to the team, who began improving the sounds of crashed and derelict ships for future release. Welcome, buddy. Backend services network. Throughout November, December, backend team focused on persistent services, optimization, and stability. They were able to vastly increase the performance of the variable services, loadouts, and the main persistence cache service. The stability of the backend increased greatly, surpassing the performance and reliability of previous releases. Low-level networking code was updated to improve both performance, scalability, and robustness. Several fixes and optimizations to the transaction service, rentals, and entitlement processor were completed too. Finally, they began internal testing on the Super Pcache/iCache services that will be deployed this year. So, iCache, I think, stands for inventory cache, and Pcache stands for persistence cache. So, or information cache versus persistence cache. So it sounds like they may be splitting this up into two things. One being the information being stored separately on a server, and the other one being the actual persistence, which will then take over the persistence of the current persistence. So that's cool. Community team kicked off in November by announcing Leilani Anderson as UEE's new Imperator, which was voted on by the community and will ultimately determine the future of the verse. Thank you, CIG. There were a ton of great entries. These are all cool things. Ooh, I like that picture though. This is a fan-made picture. It's pretty cool. Give me some StarCraft 2 vibes, or StarCraft vibes there. StarCraft 2. Depth of field, SDF support. CACH, it says it right here. Cache as in information cache. CACHE. Titanfall. I love it. I love Titanfall. You should play it a lot. Vulkan initiative continued with high-level renderer code refactor and optimizations. For example, the way material constants are uploaded to GPU was simplified and optimized. A larger refactor of the shader cache backend began too. Okay. So a lot of stuff were being moved over to Vulkan. Using telemetry from PU and PTU, the core engine team continued to ongoing investigation into memory usage. This led to an engine-wide memory allocator and tracking system to be subsequently refactored and improved. To improve additional performance boost to the servers, the Linux DGS was switched to a monolithic executable to allow for compiler to generate better code for local thread storage access in particular, and a stress test for object container streaming was added. I understand some of those words. I think I get most of that, though. Lastly, C++ 14 support was enabled for the entirety of the client server editor and relevant tool projects. The US gameplay feature team kicked off November by fixing critical bugs, polishing expo halls. The reputation system, which was rolled out in a limited capacity. New Mobigas app for the reputation system was kicked off too, known internally as RepDex. This will allow players to check their affinities and reputation with organizations and contacts, along with their notoriety. Players will be able to track their career and progression within orgs and view descriptions, lore, key members, and important information. The notoriety section will allow players to monitor the reputation and view all currently active perks. Nice. IFCS splines. Tunable flight behavior. Ship-to-station docking was further developed. When implemented, players will need to request permission from air traffic control before the dock will extend properly. However, various areas of docking still need focus, such as configuring docked ships, such as the Merlin Constellation, in the VMA. They also progressed with the Aegis HUD visuals, continuing to implement elements and explore new key features, both visually and functionally. Okay, lighting. Okay, it's just cool stuff. Security Point Jericho, guys. That's Security Point Jericho. Some cool stuff. Narrative. All right, let's look at this. Thanks to everyone who voted. It will certainly be interesting to see where Addison takes the Empire from here. Yeah, she won 46% of the vote. Over 45% of the vote. Like many other teams, Narrative began pre-production and planning for 2021. This including generated proposals for PU character needs, along with Squadron 42 pickups. They also worked through requests from upstream teams for the next 2 quarters and discussed in-game mission events currently in development. In December, the environment team progressed with Orison and began looking forward to other star systems. This led for the creation of a significant number of location documents, which included the details of Pyro's inhabitants, flora and fauna. The team even started brainstorming points of interest in Nyx to get ahead of schedule. Narrative also met with the actor feature team to create a lore explanation for the respawning mechanic discussed in October's episode of Calling All Deads. It's good to know that they're doing that. The team improved the tech display text with removed notifications and mission upserts. The build, okay. Building blocks, okay. It looks cool. Nice. Yeah. It's a lot of information. I could probably go over this for an hour, fine-tooth comb and stuff like that. Will Vulkan solve 30K errors? No. It might solve errors that are hardware-related, but most of the 30K errors are now server-side rather than hardware-related. But it definitely will solve hardware-related crashes, which are not 30Ks. 30K just means you disconnect from the server. Yeah, it should help some of those issues. Addison rigged the votes with her AI. No non-party affiliated candidate would have won like that. Titan Suit, please iCash. What's your soundtrack playlist? I like the mood. It's called Pretzel Rocks, and it's called Chilled EDM Station. Pretzel Rocks is kind of like a royalty-free version of Spotify. It's designed for YouTube and Twitch streamers, but anyone can use it. I pay for it as well, though, so I can kind of support them a little bit more. Just got home. What did I miss? Everything, Ray. Everything. Question. Do you think the star map on the website is too heavy of a program to use in game? Yes. I know they plan on updating the game map at some point. Yes, it's too heavy right now. It's not optimized for the game properly. Great sound moving over here, yeah.
I just want to go back.
Praise iCash. Yeah, iCash is going to change a lot, guys. So iCash is going to change a lot of how Star Citizen functions. There will be a kind of like how there was pre 2.0 and post 2.0 and pre 3. There's 3.4, I think, was the big patch. There was 3.0, and it was garbage performance up until about 3.4 or 3.3. And when 3.3.3.4 happened, they introduced OCS, and then performance went from maybe 20 FPS if you're lucky to 60 FPS overnight. And then that slowly whittled back down to what it is now. But there was a huge difference. And I think iCache won't necessarily do that in terms of performance, but what it will do is in terms of gameplay. After iCache is in, you will start to see a huge change from in terms of the game and how the game plays from a gameplay aspect. Because iCache will do things like know where you are in the universe. So logging out isn't a huge issue from your bed because you're almost guaranteed to return back to where you were. You could still probably fall through the planet, but that's a different thing. And then there's the 30K. Like eventually, if not immediately, iCache will solve your 30K issues. It won't stop the 30Ks. It'll just prevent the 30Ks from being shitty to you. So instead of 30K'ing out and being like, great, I just lost 2 million UEC, you'll just pop back in and you'll be where you left off. Maybe 10, 20 seconds, maybe a minute, maybe a couple minutes behind where you were before, but you still have all your stuff most of the time. So 3.3 was OCS. It's like 3.3.5, I think it was. It was the end of the year after 3.0 released. Do I think Anvil will make their own versions of the Hammerhead, Idris, and Javelin? I think so. I don't think I still would like to see an Anvil cruiser. Just a gunfighter cruiser. It has some missiles, have some torpedoes on it, but it's mostly just bristling with weapons. It just punches its way through oppositions. I'd love that. I will get more 30Ks if I watch this on YouTube or Twitch. Yes. But all in seriousness, the reason why I put this on both YouTube and Twitch is because I want to make sure that if you're watching me on YouTube, I stream live on Twitch Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. Thursdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Central, which is 6 p.m. Eastern, or 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And on Saturdays and Sundays in the afternoons, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. 4 to 6 hours a day. And if you're watching this on Twitch, I have a YouTube where I do lore videos, I do other update stuff, I've done tutorials on how to smuggle. So if you like content and you want to watch some content on Star Citizen, I got YouTube for you. Bingo bongo. Is cargo safer at the moment? It's safer than it used to be. All right, y'all. I think we've gone over a lot of this. I'm glad you've been here to join us. If you did enjoy that, please hit this follow button on Twitch. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Comment if you're watching these YouTube content down below. With, your own questions, your own thoughts, and I'll try to answer them. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're watching this on YouTube and you like to support us, you can support us here on Twitch with your paid subscriptions, which is, through any way you want to. Or you can support us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Galactic Historian, where you can continue to support this content and much more like it. Will this be in the test? Yes, it will be on the test. Thank you all for joining us. I love your faces, and like I say every time, hope to see you guys again soon. But if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, Ex Historia and Astra.